Before this video starts, if you enjoy this video, there are many more like it already on the channel, with many more like it to come in the future, so subscribe. I'm trying to hit 100,000 subscribers by the end of the year, so I would really appreciate it. I upload 6 days a week on this channel, so if you're looking for some consistent basketball talk, this is the place for it. Also, drop a like on this video. It only takes 1 second and it makes a massive difference. So for last year's draft, and specifically last year's draft lottery, this was my reaction. But now, I'm chillin' because the Bulls, for the first time in 4 years, actually moved up in the draft from where they were supposed to be. That is correct. The Bulls moved up into the top 4, and I am in a very good and chill mood. As a matter of fact, I'm gonna crack a drink and sit back. Hopefully the mic catches this. Oh yeah, that's good. 0 calories. Trying to diet here. If you couldn't tell already, this is yet another unscripted video. I wanted to talk about the Bulls unscripted once more because I really enjoyed doing that Jim Boylan video. I'm probably going to do one unscripted video a week from now on just because it frees up my workload a little bit and gives me some more free time. So if you like these videos, please be sure to let me know by dropping a like on this video. But today we're going to be discussing what the Bulls should do with the 4th pick in the 2020 NBA draft. Now, I want to provide a disclaimer before we go with anything here because, as you should hopefully know, I'm not really that big of a draft guy. Like, generally speaking, I don't talk about the draft on this channel. I choose like a most underrated prospect every year, but after that, there's nothing draft related on this channel. So if you want to take what I'm saying with a grain of salt, please feel free to do so. I'm going to be talking about these prospects in a more general sense, basically the type of archetype they're supposed to be, what they project to be based on other people's opinions. These are not really my opinions on the prospects themselves, rather my opinions on what those prospects would do with the Bulls, which I do know a lot about based on other people's opinions of those prospects. I have no idea if that made any sense. First, let's go over what the Bulls have and what the Bulls need. So in terms of this draft, if I'm looking at positions that are basically on lock for the Bulls, really it's only the center position because I don't think there's a center in this draft class that's going to be better than Wendell Carter Jr. But everything else is really up for, I'd be happy to take someone over them in their position just because I think there could be a better prospect available. First, I guess we should talk about LaMelo Ball and Anthony Edwards. The thing about them is they're probably not going to be available where the Bulls are at number 4, but it's also not impossible. It's pretty damn likely that the Timberwolves are going to draft LaMelo based on a lot of reports, and then after that, I think the Hornets would take Anthony Edwards, but I'm also not sure because they're the Hornets, and if the Timberwolves took Anthony Edwards, I wouldn't be surprised if LaMelo fell to the Bulls just because the Warriors don't need a point guard and the Hornets probably don't need a point guard either, and they might want a guy like James Wiseman because they're very lacking in the center position. So if LaMelo did fall to the Bulls, that would definitely be interesting. I shouldn't have said the Timberwolves are definitely taking LaMelo because they might take Edwards just because they have D'Lo already. That's what I would do in their shoes, but a lot of Wolves fans have been saying that's probably the direction they're going, so I'm taking their word for that. But if the Bulls did end up getting Ball or Edwards, that would mean one of either Kobe or Zach would need to be traded. If we took Edwards, I'd just say straight up trade Zach because I believe Kobe can play point guard. I do not believe Zach or Edwards can play point guard, so that wouldn't work as a duo whatsoever. And if we took Ball, I would personally say trade Kobe over trade Zach. If you know me, I'm not the biggest Kobe fan in the world. Kobe White fan. I'm a huge Kobe fan, you know what I mean. But Kobe White in himself, I think he's a little bit overrated by Bulls fans. I think he's actually quite a bit overrated by Bulls fans. The other day, a couple hours ago, someone said that Kobe had GOAT potential, which might be the dumbest fucking thing I've ever read on the internet ever, and that's a high bar. So if I'm choosing to trade one of Kobe or Zach in the position of drafting LaMelo Ball, I'm going to trade Kobe just because I believe Zach is better than Kobe is ever going to be, and I think LaMelo would fit quite well with Zach because I really want Zach to be an off-ball player. But speaking of that, who I think the Bulls will likely be picking at 4 is one of either Killian Hayes or Denny Avdija. I'm just going to call him Denny. I have no idea. Now, for me personally, I'm going to lean a little bit more in the direction of Killian Hayes, and let me explain why. Hayes is basically projected to be like a Malcolm Brogdon type of prospect, and this is, again, based on what I'm hearing from other people, not myself. Basically, he's going to be a very stable point guard who is an above average player, an above average starter in the league. Probably not an all-star level player, but he's going to be very good. Now, I know that's pretty underwhelming for a number 4 pick, but this is the 2020 draft class we are talking about here. I don't know that Hayes is a future all-star, but the thing is, I also don't know that Denny is going to be a future all-star. With Denny, he's a very good defensive player and a very high IQ player. He's pretty good in the size department, fairly athletic, and he has a lot of really good passing ability. Problem is, he's not the best ball handler, which kind of mitigates some of that passing ability, and not a very good shooter. He's not horrible at it, but he's also not great, and I'm very pro drafting guys that can shoot the damn ball. Killian Hayes is someone who is a pretty good playmaker and a pretty good shooter both on and off of the ball, as well as has some size to play defense, and I can't imagine a better point guard to put next to Zach LaVine. Now, I don't think the Bulls should be building around Zach LaVine. I think basically the Bulls should just build around having a good team, not around any specific player that we currently have. Ideally, you draft that specific player to build around, but I don't think that player is in this draft class, outside of maybe LaMelo and maybe Edwards, but those guys are likely not going to be available at number 4. So, I don't want to build around Zach. However, this draft class in particular really only gives you that option. It really only gives you the option of, let's just add another piece to make this Bulls team a little bit better as a unit rather than finding the piece. Now, it's unfortunate the Bulls get a top 5 pick in a draft like that and not the other couple of drafts that have had Zion and Luka Doncic, but that's life, I suppose. I'm realizing there are going to be a whole lot of continuity errors with this cup going up and down with the cuts. Oh well, deal with it. As for some other guys who are going to be available in that number 4 spot, I'm really not a fan of Obi Toppin and especially not a fan of James Wiseman. As I said, I don't think there's a center in this draft class better than Wendell Carter that projects to be better than Wendell Carter. Like, I think Wendell is amazing, and I think Bulls fans do not credit him enough whatsoever. He's a very good defensive player with a lot of offensive upside. So I don't want Wiseman, who, based on a lot of what I've heard from my friends who are fans of the draft, they compare him to guys like Clint Capella, and I think Wendell is going to be better than Clint Capella in like a year, so I don't want to draft Clint Capella, especially being that the center position is a position I believe is dying in the NBA, and having a guy like him is really not that important, not as important as it used to be. If this was 1990, my mind might be in a different spot, but it isn't. Toppin is old, and he's not much of a defensive player, and he's almost certainly a power forward. Like, I can't imagine him playing any position other than like maybe small ball 5 that's not power forward, so that doesn't work. Don't want a non-defensive guy, or at least non-okay defensive guy, unless that prospect is amazing offensively, and Toppin is not amazing offensively. Very good athlete and a pretty capable shooter, but I don't think he's good for the Bulls, especially because I don't think he's really that much better of a prospect than Lauri Markkanen, and we already have him. Basically, I'm not really sure that the prospects that are available are going to be like any better than some of the other prospects we already have on our team. We're just adding another one to that. My direction and where I want the Bulls to go is drafting Killian Hayes. I think I've made that clear by now. I think Hayes is the best fit for this team, and I also think he's probably just as good of a prospect as Denny. It really just comes down to fit when it's with those two, and I personally prefer the fit of Killian Hayes. The reason why I think the Bulls won't go in that direction and are likely going to draft Denny is because of Coby White. Now, this is really dependent on what Carnicephus thinks of Coby White. I personally am not a fan. He might be, or he might not. I get the vibe that Carnicephus really cares about high skill players, and I think both Hayes and Denny are that, especially Denny, and Coby is a little bit more, what's the word, like a gunner, and maybe not the highest IQ player in the world, so he might not be a huge fan. Really depends, but Coby White is one of the most intriguing young players on this team, so there's a chance that they're gonna go Denny over Hayes because of that, because he's slotted in at the point guard spot. But I personally believe what the Bulls need most is playmaking and shooting and size, and having that size, shooting, and playmaking at the point guard spot is certainly ideal. So in terms of just drafting at number 4, my idea is Killian Hayes. Now, there's also the potential prospect of trading up and maybe moving a future first-round pick or one of our young guys, like maybe Lauri Markkanen, up. But I don't know that LaMelo and Edwards are better than Lauri and Hayes, like the two of them rather than just one player. That's kind of an interesting situation because I think Lauri Markkanen is going to be great this year once he has an actual coach and the offense is more catered towards him. But Maybe he's not, and that's the move. I don't know. I really like Anthony Edwards, but I also really like Zach LaVine, and I don't know that Edwards is going to be all that much better, but he's also younger, so you kind of get to a bit of a restart there. And I really like LaMelo, but he's also a high risk, high reward type of guy. He's the only guy in this draft that I would say has superstar potential, but I also think he has massive bust potential, so that's kind of an awkward place to be. So I would steer in the direction of not trading up, but I'm kind of okay with the idea of trading back, maybe a few picks, maybe even a lot of picks if it makes sense, and there's a prospect that I don't know about that makes sense, because the idea of getting a good 2021 first round pick with that draft class being as good as it is a pretty exciting idea, especially if we could have that pick our own pick and trade that up to get an even better pick in a very good draft class. That's certainly an idea, but I'm probably leaning towards drafting Killian Hayes. Outside of that, though, there is the prospect of trading that pick for a star established player. There's guys like Chris Paul and Drew Holiday who could possibly be available. Also, there's rumors that Lonzo Ball might be available after he stunk it up in the bubble. I don't think the Pelicans should make that move, but it's possible they feel that way. Lonzo, I would not trade for the 4th pick in the draft. I think Killian Hayes is going to be as good, if not better, so I wouldn't do that. Like I suggested the idea of trading for Lonzo last year, but this year, with the 4th pick rather than the 7th, not feeling that way. Also, in terms of Drew Holiday or Chris Paul, I would go Drew over Paul, but really, I'm thinking that I'd rather just have Killian Hayes, because less money, obviously, money in free agency that you can spend, and also I just think Hayes could probably be as good as Drew Holiday or kind of close to it, and that's, I'd rather just have that on a much cheaper contract, who's younger with a lot of upside. So basically, draft Killian Hayes. That's what I'm thinking. I'm also fine with Denny, and I'm also fine with trading that pick for someone like Drew Holiday, but I'm probably expecting Denny to be drafted. Hopefully that's the right move. That's what I expect to happen. What I want to happen is drafting Killian. So that's what I believe the Bulls should do in the 2020 NBA draft. That is the end of this video. Please be sure to like and subscribe for more NBA content like this, and cue the outro music.